has been a big year in retail, right? And all of this all the change that we've seen really is fueled by technology. There are a few things more important than retail today than technology. You know, gone are the days where you could just open a store, greet customers with a smile, provide good customer service, quality products, right? You know, now merchants must greet shoppers either physically or digitally with that virtual equivalent of a smile. And they must know what items they've been browsing online and in stores and present new and like items accordingly. We've got to provide everything through a variety of means and then send it to their home within 2 hours, sometimes by an autonomous vehicle or a robot, right? We're learning a lot about that this week. There is perhaps no better example of technology in retail today than the autonomous store. Who here has heard of an Amazon Go? Awesome. Who's been to one? Right? Visiting is believing with autonomous stores. This is a technology that allows you to just walk in the store that Amazon developed, and you walk in the store, you grab a few items off the shelf, and you leave. You don't pay, you don't wait in line, no muss, no fuss, no talking to anybody unless you have a question on the way out. And this is something that's really disrupting retail in dramatic ways. You know, we can say just in the last week, RIP Sears, right? Almost. I think they've got one last lifeline in play. And hello to the new retail world order, as I'm starting to think of it. Yesterday, we had Amazon displace Microsoft as the most valuable company. And then this morning, we had Jeff Bezos announce he's getting divorced. So, and I'm not making that up. So things are happening. And the autonomous store that Amazon's developing is probably the topic number one in retail. And it's the one we're going to start with today. A new report out this week from RBC estimates that each store is generating about 1.5 million in sales. And these are tiny, tiny stores. They're in office buildings, high traffic areas, and they're expensive to operate, as we're about to learn. There are estimates there could be up to like 3,000 Amazon Go stores in the US in the next few years. And there are options today for retailers. And as you're walking around the show and as you're learning more about the technology fueling what's important in our space, autonomous stores are going to be it. And that's me. I'm Laura Heller. I've never introduced myself. I have spent the last 20-something years as a journalist covering retail and technology for a variety of business publications and trade publications. CES, this will be my 21st CES. I'm wearing flats because, you know, I learned my lessons. And I am happy to bring up Michael Suswal. Michael Suswal is COO of Standard Cognition, and Standard Cognition has an autonomous shopping solution that's not Amazon, and it is available to other merchants. And as we see throughout the year, you're going to hear these stories about coalitions being developed to compete with Amazon and to be not Amazon. And this is a technology that will help in that. So, Michael, if you want to come on up, I'm going to show a little clip. This is a visit to the Amazon Go store. So this is what happens. You just pick up your stuff. It's a tiny little kiosk area inside of an office building. You have to have the Amazon Go app in order to get through those turnstiles. And this very amateur video that I shot 2 days ago in Chicago of my boss, who's leaving the store with his items. This is lunch. Took us about 1 minute and 40 seconds to get through the store, read some nutritional information, check some prices, compare some products, and you just walk right out through those turnstiles, and you'll get a notice in a little bit from Amazon saying, one, how much you paid, because it's attached to your Amazon Prime account, and two, how long you spent in the store, which is a really interesting component to this because Amazon's value proposition really is convenience, and it is telling you straight away right there in your receipt how convenient it was for you to get lunch today, as opposed to waiting in line for 20 minutes or ordering from another app. So Michael, why don't you come on up and just pick a chair. Okay. Sure. We're going to sit down and have a little conversation here. I was pretty fortunate to hear Michael's presentation earlier this year at Grocery Shop here in Las Vegas. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what Standard Cognition is? And for those of you in the room who don't follow the news obsessively like I do, They just raised, I think, 40 million in a Series A.
That's right.
And yesterday announced the acquisition of another company that is a mapping company that helps to facilitate autonomous driving, which makes this whole autonomous retail ecosystem a lot more compelling.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels between autonomous driving and autonomous checkout. You need to be able to understand the environment. Our environments are much smaller than the world, but being able to have a lot more detail within a store and what every action occurs within a space is a lot harder than driving. But we were able to acquire this team to bring, really to do quite a few things for us and expedite some of our development process in automated recalibration of cameras. No matter where you are in the world, there's vibrations and cameras get out of whack. And it's our effort to be able to do that on the fly and have them automatically recalibrate without any human intervention. So that was part of the acquisition and indoor mapping, essentially. But what we really do is autonomous checkout. And so just like Amazon Go, you walk into a space, you grab things, you walk out, and you're automatically charged. But our biggest difference between us and Amazon is we're not opening our own stores. We have one store in San Francisco, but that's the extent of our retail capability. We're not retailers. Our business model is to retrofit our technology into existing stores. And so that requires a completely different approach of implementation. Essentially, we need to, Amazon is able to create the store environment they want and then sell that and repeat it over and over. That doesn't work for most retailers. No retailer wants to become a cookie cutter concept and just everything looks and acts like an Amazon Go store. In other words, you can't have sales the way you want to. You can't wheel out an umbrella cart when it's raining. You can't just set up a table. In other words, you take the autonomy away from the general manager of the store.
Now, there's a lot of barriers to entry for a retailer. I mean, one, the installed base of older units that we just talked about. And two is the cost of the cameras and what is involved in facilitating the autonomous checkout, right? Amazon Go has, you've said...
Thousands of cameras.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have, on their ceiling, when you look up, that's where you think all the cameras are. But that's a fraction of them. At least in their prime location store and some of their follow-on stores. I haven't been to all of their stores yet, so I can't confirm. But they do have cameras and weight sensors built into every shelf unit in their store. Just from a statistic and probability perspective, if your camera fails 1% per year, you're dealing with multiple service and maintenance calls per month or even per week. In many cases, whereas with us, in the same size store, we have 27 cameras. And so 1% of that is fewer than once a year.
Right.
So that's a big advantage on scalability and cost.
Now, startup costs, that reduces the maintenance costs. Is this a solution that is applicable to all retailers? And since I saw Michael speak at Grocery Shop, I've been using Coach's material and sourced it and a few other presentations I've given because I think it's a fascinating solution for parts of some retail stores, if not the whole store. And even in hospitality,
yep.
we've heard talks about airport kiosks.
Yeah, really anywhere where eyes and brains are helpful, this platform is useful. Now, that's not to say we're developed far enough along to be able to deploy everywhere in the world, but we've had requests from hospitals to help doctors do surgeries.
Interesting.
So as they're going through their process, basically the concept of checklists save lives, and the AI will be able to recognize certain aspects of the process and then call out to the physician. Same with manufacturing. We've had requests for manufacturing of spaceship parts from ESA, European Space Agency. Really, anything you can think of where eyes and brains are useful and a perfect photographic memory, a platform like ours is helpful. So specifically to the retail that we're doing right now, we focused on grocery, drugstores, and convenience stores, mostly because we believe that's where, no matter what demographic you exist within, people will be visiting those stores. And so we want to get out into the people's hands as much as possible. But it's completely applicable to apparel, which we'll be doing some apparel with two of our partners.
Oh, interesting.
And really anything in retail is possible, and hospitality, as you say. Airport kiosks, just service in general. And as the technology advances and the hardware advances more than the software, to be honest, you'll see smaller and smaller deployments in your home, for example. You can ask the system, where are my keys? And it'll just tell you where they are. That's years away, but the platform is built. The intelligence is there. We just need to be able to shrink down the hardware a little bit.
So you mentioned software, so I'm going to ask,
Yeah.
because incorporating this type of solution into an existing retail program, it needs to be tied to an account, right? So does it,
Great
or
question.
how do
Great
you
question.
how do you facilitate that in terms of loyalty program tapping into the customer, recognizing the customer,
Yeah.
and charging them accordingly?
I'm glad you brought that up. There's a lot of aspects of that, so I'll keep on coming back to it if I can. It's one thing is it doesn't have to be tied to an account. It was very important to us from the beginning that this system is very privacy conscious, so there is no personalized data or personal information
Okay.
that must be used to run this system. Most systems, like Amazon Go, for example, uses facial recognition, and you may have heard Congress causing a fit about that. Some of you may know that Walmart entered into a class action lawsuit against them back in April of 2018. Because they were using facial recognition at the point of checkout. I think that's still outstanding. I don't know what the status is. But the point is, privacy is a major issue. And so we wanted to have a system where you could walk into the store and leave with the products you want completely anonymously. And to help facilitate that, we allow our shoppers to use cash. They can go to a kiosk and swipe a credit card. We don't want your payment information, ever. We just don't want that responsibility. But more than that, we also think a store that doesn't allow for cash is somewhat discriminatory. And we agree with that outlook. But you also bring up loyalty cards, and this is important to retailers. It's our position that we will integrate with the loyalty card program. However, we must be able to surface that at a very obvious and transparent way, not some clause in the terms of service somewhere of what's happening. We want them to understand their data is being collected. Although anonymized, their data would be used for helping the retailer position products better, source products better, make sure products are more fresh, etc.
Okay.
But not like Joe Schmo came in and bought Coca-Cola. We are not interested in that data.
And so there is a way to integrate your program with existing.
Yeah, so
Retail
one of our
system.
partners we're actually integrating with in two aspects. All of our retailers we integrate with on the aspect of their point of sale software. We're doing something, honestly, that's scary enough for most retailers and saying, trust us with all of your revenue. That's a lot of weight and a lot of things to test and a lot of due diligence to do on the retailer side, but then to also say everyone in your company has to relearn a software platform is an operational nightmare.
Yes.
So we wanted to avoid that too. So we talk directly to a retailer's point of sale software, just like a barcode scanner. From a technology perspective, a retailer can think of us as a really fancy, sophisticated barcode scanner, where of course we're not reading barcodes, but like a barcode scanner, you scan a product, it sends a signal to the POS, and then the POS takes care of the transaction from that point through the payment processor, etc. Our system will do the same thing. It will tell your POS what is being purchased, and then run that through the process as it currently does.
So I'm curious what the biggest questions you're getting from retailers are right now.
Yeah, it's when we started this company 2 years ago. Actually, next month's our 2-year anniversary.
Yes.
So we're a pretty young company, but we've been able to talk to, and I've been able to talk to hundreds of retailers. And so I had anticipated cost being the number one advantage of our system over current systems. And I expected the questions to be around reducing costs, operational costs for retail, and which we do. That's important. No doubt everyone runs the numbers.
Right.
But the number one thing they come to us and talk about is customer experience. And so the first meeting I usually have with the retailer is focused on how we both see the future of retail, and more importantly, how they see themselves fitting in with that future. And it's surprising that people are always going after technologies and not really asking themselves that question. Because it's only about half of the retailers I speak to that have an answer to that. So that's a very interesting conversation, and we spend a lot of time talking about their position in the market.
Is there one underlying thing that stands out?
Yeah, sure. It's really unique. So there's two major complaints that's pretty ubiquitous across all retail. and that is poor customer service and long lines. Not necessarily in that order.
Because we are still shopping in stores. Don't believe everything you hear that it's all gone digital.
Well, that's another point, right? So I don't have 2018 numbers yet, but the trajectory was the same. In 2017, more stores opened than closed. And so what stores are opening and what stores are thriving? Because clearly there's a lot more success story than failure stories. But the failure stories are coming from retailers who have been traditionally focused on driving price down and delivering the best value per cost for a shopper. But we see a shift. And those retailers who talk to me about customization and localization, and in other words, emphasizing how our system needs to be flexible in their environments, really calls out an important aspect of, I think, the future of retail. And that is you need to have a flexible system and give autonomy to your managers to interact and react to what your customers are telling you. Flash sales, architecture changes within the store planogram, and just even products from local sources, and listening to what products people are asking for in your area, and allowing for that. And you need to have a system that will be flexible with that. And a shelf-based sensor system, while it works for a particular retailer, Amazon Go in this case, is not really something that would be transferable to all retail environments.
Right. So, short answer, this technology is helping retailers solve for some of their customer service issues and some of the experiential issues that we talk about a lot in retail, which is retail needs to be more experiential, more exciting for the customer, and more open.
Yeah, and really just driving down, or really driving up market share. So, I mean, we can talk about reducing costs all day long, but if you're able to double your market share, I can't outweigh the benefits of those profits, no matter how we slice it. Yes, market share and customer experience and really connecting with people. Actually, this is one of our taglines of our company. Something we strive for is rehumanizing retail. And we do that by literally removing machines from between people. So that might seem weird coming from a tech company, but we don't need conveyor belts. We don't need cash registers. We don't need surfaces that are in between the staff of a store and a customer. We kind of want to bring back the old world feeling with modern day conveniences and logistics.
That sounds like a great solution
Yeah.
and equation. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I know it was a last minute
It
gig
was
for
fast.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask all of you guys, though, before you leave the stage, what at CES is of most interest to you today? Do you have something on a shopping list?
Oh boy, that's a. I wasn't ready for that question. Any other question I was ready for. I'm really interested in the payments area and how that's developing. We've had a lot of outreach from banks, from credit cards, payment processors, point of sale software companies, and the payments ecosystem is also in one of these major disruption moments.
Yes.
And it's hard to know where it's going. But we're lucky to be part of the conversation and have some visibility. So I'm eager to see what people are talking about today.
Awesome. And something that includes cash payments
Yes,
as well, apparently.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.